So normally I leave the platform at this point. But over these last several weeks, we've been talking about what it means to be together in marriage. And we've gotten some questions as a staff about what that means. And the question that keeps coming up is, Jeremy says this, Jeremy says this, Jeremy says that. What does Corrie actually think? This is Corrie, Jeremy's wife, if you have not met her yet.
For those of you watching online, this is who I always point to, right there.
She's always sitting right there.
You never see her online, but that's her. She's right there in that chair.
I'd rather be there. No.
So why did I agree to this? So as part of, we're getting here to the end of our series, and we wanted to take a few minutes. And so I have some questions prepared that I'm going to ask, and hopefully we're just going to have a great little discussion about what it means to be married. When Jeremy came and we first met each other, we realized that our two families have lived relatively similar lives. And in fact, when Corrie's wedding dress came up on Facebook, I was like, oh my word, I think we wore the same dress, just about. So let's start by saying, how long have you guys been married?
We just had our 26th anniversary on Thursday. The 23rd. So
Yep.
26 years.
We're getting up there.
Amazing. So 26 years is a long time. Yes. So I'm guessing Jamarcus and Polly would answer this question a little differently than you guys. They've had a couple of days,
Like
right?
26 hours, 48 hours.
In what ways, this is a good one, in what ways have you two encountered challenges when one partner feels less understood in your marriage? And then how did you navigate those situations? So we're talking probably about communication and understanding.
I would say yes.
The question is, in what ways?
I was
Corrie?
agreeing with your, probably about communication.
Yes.
I agree. So actually, Jeremy and I ran through these questions a little earlier, and that was the thing that we said, because we communicate very differently. I have few words. Jeremy has many words. And sometimes I just don't take as many things to say. And whether he understands me, sometimes I don't know.
Me understand.
No. Yeah, no, that's more me. I understand that.
So not just in like the words that we would choose, but it's how we would express those words. I have said this before. Corrie is like the rudder of the ship. Like, she's steady. Sometimes you think you know she's happy, but you question that she might be mad. And then sometimes you think she's sad, but you're not quite for sure if she's not really just kind of just celebrating something. She's so steady, right? And everything, like she's always just really there. And me, it's very different every time we talk, you know? And she's like, I'm not for sure if you're angry or excited right now. I'm like, me neither, you know? And that affects how that communication goes too.
So sometimes
Those of you who are laughing know exactly what I'm talking about. You live that in your homes,
I think
right?
I think that's a normal, like, typically that's the dynamic in marriages. We come about this whole world in different ways, and we communicate differently. So, and that's a challenge because you do feel misunderstood. Sometimes I'm not clear with how I'm feeling or what I'm trying to say, and I don't think it always comes across as like how desperately I'm struggling or how I feel. So
highs or lows,
highs
right?
or lows, and for him it's super obvious.
So the communication part comes on each of you,
Yep.
right? That clarification if there's something you don't understand, right?
Yep.
Is this what you meant?
Yes,
When you
and we're getting better at that.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like I think this happened yesterday. I'm getting a lot from you. Am I understanding this correctly? So keep digging it out when you're not understanding. And for many, many years, we just stopped and left. We're confused. Like, how do we feel? So we're learning, I think, to do that more.
Well,
We're still learning, right? 26 years later,
on
still learning.
that dynamic, Corrie, this goes back to I think I shared this in a sermon a couple of weeks ago, but when we were talking about money the other day, there was a point when we were very clearly saying words that weren't communicating. And you said, I think I'm ready for this conversation to take a different tone. Can you do that? And I was like, no. And normally, like, as we're working through things, and you continue to grow as a couple, like, there in the past, Corrie, I say normally, but in the past, Corrie, if she felt uncomfortable in a conversation, she may go, well, when you're ready to talk about it, I'll be ready, and she would exit the situation. But she stayed, and I told her that I couldn't. I needed to regulate. That's a word we use in our home quite often. I needed to regulate because I wasn't mad at her. I was mad at the software we were using, and it was communicating aggressively, and I was like, okay, let me just pause. And I sat there for like 5 minutes saying nothing, and she's like, are you okay? Not yet. You know, and eventually I got to a space where we could communicate again, right, and actually be heard from each other. And that sounds really weird. I felt like a kindergartner in that conversation, but I needed that space, and she gave me that space, and then it worked out really well.
But we haven't always done that. So it's continuing to learn.
Yep.
Okay, this one's not on the sheet, but while you're talking about this and about
Not on the sheet. I'm just kidding.
Don't panic.
Okay.
No, I heard growing up, don't ever go to bed angry. So I want to know how you two manage that situation.
That is not something I've done very well, if that's the rule.
No, I think we have found that also. I think some older, wiser women along the way have encouraged me to just say, sometimes that's not possible.
Yep.
And that's okay, right? You're not being a bad wife. You're not being a bad husband. Sometimes you just need some time and space and sleep to be able to manage. That doesn't mean you can't come back to it.
Yep.
But not to get caught up in those.
I think even in that space, Kim, when we have gone to bed and there's disagreement between us, even in that space, we can look each other in the face, in the eyes, and say, I love you.
But
and then roll over back to back and still know in the morning, I love you, right? But the conflict is never greater than our connection. Sometimes it's a scattered connection, but like, even when we've been at conflict with each other, it's like, I still love you. I know. And then it's worth reminding ourselves in those moments.
Yeah, completely agree. Okay, the next question is about showing kindness, right? So sometimes in those moments, you're able to just say, do you need some time? I'll give you that time, right? Sometimes you're going to fight against that. I can't give you the time you need because we have to talk about this right now. So in terms of showing kindness, what obstacles have you faced in consistently showing that kindness to each other? So when you hit a moment and you think, I am not going to be kind right now, what sort of space are you in, and then how did you deal with that feeling?
So I think in conflict, I think every person comes to like how you're going to deal with it maybe at different times. So maybe one person is ready to be compassionate or show kindness first, or, to offer that first little nugget of, are we going to be okay, kind of thing. And so I would say, again, we communicate. It's so differently. What I feel is kind is different than what he feels is kind. And sometimes my offering of kindness isn't accepted or received, or the other way around as well. So learning each other's kind of how you communicate, and how when I'm offering my nugget of kindness, like, will you accept it? And sometimes that takes a lot of bravery, because in our marriage we haven't always accepted one another's kindness. And so learning what that means, and I think as we're getting older, like, I can go, oh, this is Jeremy, like, coming with that little peace offering, and it's very humble. You're like, will you accept me? Do you love me? Do you accept me? And so still, it is a chore. It's chore. It's a day-to-day chore of learning each other.
I'm thinking about maybe a year or so ago, one of my favorite chocolate bars is the Fruit Nut Bar.
From Aldi.
From Aldi in particular.
So good.
With the hazelnuts and the I
purple.
absolutely love that chocolate bar. And she knows it. And we had been in a disagreement with each other, and then that chocolate bar magically appeared in our refrigerator, because one of us likes to eat cold chocolate. But it was my favorite candy bar. And so I saw it in there. I was like, oh, that looks so good. But she didn't necessarily offer it to me, so I closed it. 2 days went by. Okay, guys and gals, sometimes you have to be aware of your spouse to know that kindness is being extended. 2 days go by, and the candy bar had yet to be open. Which in my house, if there's chocolate, we don't keep chocolate in the house because it's typically gone. And the bar remained untouched for 2 days. And so I finally said, Corrie, would you like some of your candy bar? Because I wanted some. And she says, dummy, I bought that for you 2 days ago to say I'm sorry.
I said, no, that's for you.
So, well, I heard
You
dummy.
didn't say dummy? No.
She would not
Clarification, yes.
say that. No, she wouldn't say that. But she bought that for me as a token of kindness. And then for 2 days, she's feeling like not received. Right? And I'm just going, I just want to eat the chocolate, but it's all for her.
Yes. Communication.
It's key.
So
It
tricky.
comes back to that every time, seems like.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but I think, so we've been married almost 27 years, and I just feel like, man, I should know what I'm doing by now, right?
For real.
It just hits you, and you just think, how can we still be having the same argument all these years later? And that's just part of it. So again, another encouragement that it's worth it, right? To just keep having those conversations. And like Jeremy said, to always know at the end of the day, that connection between you is more important than those bits and pieces. Okay, how do you manage the struggle of finding quality time together amidst your busy schedules? And why don't you start by telling everybody how many children you have and their ages, and then tell us how you find quality time.
We have 6 children, ranging from 24 to 9. We have a group of older kids and then a group of younger children. So it's been pretty much all but 2 years of our marriage we've had children, so in our home. But the children have actually helped in this because it's set up the routine for those moments of where we have to connect. So 8 o'clock is the hour in which we have always set aside the kids. We were one of those, like, the kids will go to bed at a certain time. I know things are different now, but with let them go to bed when they want or whatever. But we were like, it was mandatory, 8 o'clock, bedtime. And then that didn't mean it was time to go and flip on the TV. It was we have to connect. So, and we've continued that pattern. We still send our kids to bed at 8. Whether they go to sleep, I don't know. But so it's the intentional pattern that you have to set up. It isn't something that you just do. Right. Never.
Yeah, and almost every night. I can't say always at 8 o'clock because sometimes you got a missions meeting or a board meeting or a finance meeting or whatever. But in that time when the kids are setting up to go to bed, we pause. We hit the schedule. Every morning before I take off, we sit down, we have a cup of coffee, and we intentionally, and it's like a business meeting, isn't
tasky.
it? Right?
It's not like this, what are you doing today? No, it's like boom, 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 whose kid, we all have that, but it's tasky.
And then what happens, like, Kim, you probably, like, you have these weeks, right? Jamarcus, you're going to have these weeks, those 60-hour weeks, right? They're not fun, but sometimes we get across them, And when you have those weeks, you go, okay, where are we going to find ourselves here? Yeah. And so you lay that whole thing out, and you're going, we have to find time for each other. People make time for what they most love, right? You will find time to play golf and not find time for your family. I don't understand that, right? Because to me, Corrie is the most important thing in my life. My kids follow right behind her, and I go, where do I find time for her? And so we look for that for each other. And if you're not intentional about it, you'll lose it every time.
Yeah. Every time. And we've had to reel that in. There's times where you're not being intentional. That's where a marriage can get pretty dangerous.
Yep.
And then you're doing just the tasky stuff, because that has to get done.
Yep.
So we got to make sure this kid gets picked up from soccer, and we got to make sure that the water bill gets paid, but also those other pieces. So, yeah, we have... our twins are 17, and when they were babies, we have 5 kids, and when they were babies, we said, okay, we need to have this time once a week. So we set up a once-a-week date night, and it can be like an hour. It doesn't have to be that you've got to go see dinner and a show and do the whole, it's an hour, and then people are like, well, can we join you for date night? Sure. Right? Sometimes you need to have that. We're like, date night means we're not with our children. We remember who we are before we had them, right? Yep. And if you don't have kids, too, just setting aside that time that's not doing your job and getting things done around the house and just really being intentional about just taking a breath and being together. It's been really life-giving to us. And we can tell when it's been too many weeks and life gets in the way, and then we go, okay, we can't keep doing that. So this would be another one then, same vein here, favorite activities or rituals that have helped you foster companionship. Just read another article this week about rituals and how important they are. So maybe in your life, the two of you, or in your family life, what would you share that's been really meaningful for you?
I would say, like, when you talk about rituals in our home, we have one ritual that's, like, major, and it's family dinner. Like, I don't know for how long we have had, even with Daniel when he was a little baby, pulling the high chair up, and we cooked and sat down and we had dinner together. There was a season in our lives where I worked a full-time job, I went to school full-time at night, and then I had an hour's lunch break when I was teaching school, because my lunch break backed right up to my planning period. And so I would come home every day at 11:30. Corrie had a hot meal on the table. It took me 10 minutes to drive. We ate lunch, saw each other, and it took me 10 minutes to get back to the office, or back to the school campus, and then I had a little bit of time to get ready for the next class. And we did that for 2 years. Every day she had it ready there with the kids, and we're all, hey guys, it's Dad, because otherwise I was 10 o'clock at night before I got home from school, and the kids are in bed, and she's tired, and so that was something we've done, and it just has maintained into where even like Sunday nights is family dinner night. Like, we don't book anything out on Sunday night. We, all the big kids now come over, and we cook together, and we sit down, and we laugh, and we share real life together, and that ritual, I think, has been so critical into building and sustaining our family.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that any other rituals?
Any other rituals? That's probably the biggest, like, consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good one. What challenges have you encountered in affirming and supporting each other's individual pursuits and passions?
That was a good one. We were like, oh, this one will be tricky. Well, this was more the one that you had stuff to stay on, but I would say that's just always been my goal, is to see Jeremy be, doing the things he likes to do, giving him freedom to do the things, so kind of picking up some of the heavy load at home, or, during those times when that kind of heavy lifting has to be done, to be able to, maybe go to school, or whatever his next dream, goal kind of thing is just kind of doing that. But I'll let you chime in there.
So I think, can I talk real on this one?
No, don't be real. Don't be real.
Well, I thought, so we actually just looked at this particular question. We didn't know kind of what you're going to pull out, so we didn't see your list, but we had the list, but not like your selected ones. And, in our home, like, this one has probably been one of the more difficult ones, because Corrie has calling and talent and hopes and dreams and desires that I don't know, a lot of times we've been able to really push and lift up, right? I mean, and we talk about it, and we're aware of it, but we made a choice back maybe when it was possible to do this. She said, I remember very clearly, like we'd had Daniel, we were wrestling with, is she going to be a working mom or not a working mom? And she said, if God would allow it, I want to stay home and raise our kids. And so we made every sacrifice we could to do that. But she has more hopes and dreams beyond just staying at home and being a mom. That's a big part of your life, right? Just being with the kids. But sometimes it's been, I don't know if the word jealousy is the right word.
That's my word. I would say I have lived a lot of jealous years.
Of going, when do I get my shot, kind of thing. She has been absolutely steadfast, rock solid, because she's been successful in leading in her places. It has allowed me to go places too, and she said it really clearly. I remember just before we got married, we used to go to the kind of Baptist church when you made a decision for God, you had to walk down an aisle before that decision counted, right? And so she walked down this aisle, and she made this profound, God's called me into ministry. And then for years she went, God, you called me, what does that look like? And then she goes, I mean, even in recent history, she says, defining my calling is being the person to support you so that you can be the mouthpiece God's called you to be. You know, so that's so humbling to have that kind of support, you know. But I think that's been the piece, is like, how do we continue to look into each other and lift each other up, even though places like where we serve, sometimes it is hard to elevate both, right?
And there's give and take, right? Some seasons she probably has a few more things going on. Some teams you have more things going on, so that give and take with each other. How did you, like you said, you had those conversations early on. Was that something that, like, do you have a annual meeting? You know, sometimes where you sit down and you talk about the state of our marriage and like, just some of those tools, you know, I mean, does it just come naturally, or is that something, again, that you're putting in place with structure underneath it, where you're having those type of big world conversations, not just the
where there
tasking?
can be structure, I like it. So I would, the annual business meeting, it happens, and when we were young and just kind of starting, we kind of looked at our future. So here we are today. Great, you know, we're very new, very fresh. We don't really know what's going on, but we looked 20 years down the road. That's about as far as we got.
We went,
about 20. When we were just married, and we said, who do we want to be then? And then what steps do you have to take to get there? Yep. And that's why I think, like, some of the schooling that Jeremy had to do, and like things that we knew those were the goals. And I think because we said that's the goal, that's why, I mean, I said the jealousy was sometimes there or whatever, because he was out just doing all these amazing things. It felt more important things than what I'm doing. Yeah. And so, like, but that was the goal, and I think that was important to establish that very early. So if you haven't done that, I don't think it's too late ever to go, even a 5-year goal, like in 5 years, where do we want to be? And, you know, just kind of what does it take to get there? Yeah. And then you got to do the work.
And we actually, we have a journal that we did, and we went 3, 6, 12, 18, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Yeah. Is that right? We did 15. I forget.
I don't remember. It's a long time
but
ago. Where's the journal? Let's go find it.
Still have it.
Yeah, I know.
We have one goal that I know of that wasn't checked off the box in that journal, and that was the amount of money we wanted in our 401k. I wish we had beaten that goal.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
But depend on the Lord. Yeah. He's good.
So as you're thinking about where you want to be in 5 years, right, as we maybe think about where we want to be, where would we go, where did you guys go to find examples, mentorship, resources? You know, you can go to Barnes & Noble or Google and find all sorts of things. So where did you find the most help in terms of having support?
So when these systems were being established, or the way we were going to do our life, we were in seminary, and I actually had this I was part of a group called Seminary Wives in Nurturing Groups, Swing.
Swing. Not a good idea for a group name nowadays.
And so that's what all the ladies, and they would separate you. You had no idea what group you were going to go to when you were fresh. If you were married, they were like, here's your group, here's your small group. And I was placed in a group of women, and some of them were professors' wives. Some of them had been married for 20 years. Some of them were newly married. We were pretty newly married. And I think a lot of the things I learned about how to move forward in marriage, I got from that group of women. And so that was a really special time for me, and to learn. And
you're still in contact today.
Yeah, we still get together. Not very much, unfortunately, but so that finding those groups of people that are there to encourage you, and finding different peoples in different walks of life that have been there, done that, that are doing it better than you. How do you do that? You know, get this.
One of the unique opportunities of serving at church is you get to know a lot of people, right? And so I grew up without a dad. Didn't know a whole lot about what successful marriage looked like or what successful parenting looked like. And so I always just kind of watched for different families, men in particular in the church, to go, who loves their wife the way I want to love Corrie? That's older, you know? And I would go start meeting with those guys. and who's raising their kids in a way that we think we want to raise our kids, because I don't know anything about raising kids. And I would go spend time with them. And they didn't even know I was picking their brain. I would just invite them out for coffee and hang out, and then kind of hang out with their family. And I think that, for me, has been huge. Like, finding people that you think they have qualities I want to be like, and go be with them. And I actually learned that from Dave Ramsey, who's like, why do poor people want to hang around other poor people? If you want to try to make money, go find the old guy who's got money and go hang out with him, because he knows something about it. But poor people giving poor people advice about being rich, that doesn't work. And so I went, well, who's got a good marriage? Who's a good dad? Who's I want to go be with those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just thinking too, how do you think having commonality of faith has impacted your relationship in terms of longevity, or any direction you want to go with that?
Go ahead, Mr.
This was not a prepared question, so we'll give them an extra moment.
Corrie and I, we asked this question a while back of ourselves, like, what do you think is the most standout quality of our relationship? And we both just kind of looked at each other and we said, somewhere in this frame: commitment, faithfulness, loyalty, right? There have been times, and I'm sure most couples feel this way, when it would be much easier to walk away from each other than to walk towards each other, right?
Yep.
But because Christ walked towards us first, he walked towards us first, right? Our commitment to him, but more so his commitment to us. Like, I'm looking at this table, it says faith can move mountains. That's what it says right here on this table. I don't know where we would be without faith in Christ. As a couple, as parents, as friends. Like, when we talk about, I was going to say Corrie's my rock, but Christ is who we stand upon, and I think that's so critical to what, through all the ups and downs, like, that has been the thing. Jesus is the thing that goes, I got you. I've already won the victory. Do you trust me with it? Right. And we've had to look at each other and go, I'm not for sure I can trust you, but I can trust Jesus, and we're going to go this way.
Yep.
Yes.
I agree.
Can you think of any one particular challenge that is recurring for you that seems to just...
Yeah. I think that's just the way the challenges are.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, but as I'm getting older, I go, it's the same thing we struggle with. Like, there's never, like, we have issues, but it always comes back to the same thing. I don't know. Is that true? Do you find that in your lives? Like, it isn't a brand new, I've never struggled this way before. No, it's always the same. Whether it's your personal, the sin struggle, that I feel like it's the same. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same in marriage too. Like, if you struggle with it, it's probably going to be the thing that comes right back around, and you got to keep working on it. So what do you think the struggle is?
What do I think the struggle is?
Or what is it?
Consistently for us, the thing that we have fought through, it goes back to that piece of communication. It's there. Like, we're problem solvers by nature. I am more moody and broody than Corrie is, so I will enter that whole stupid emotional roller coaster all the time. She is, and my son is this way too. Like, they are very, like, faithful and simple. Like, yes, this is what the Lord says. Why aren't we doing this? This thing isn't working. Why don't we go this direction, try this instead? And I'm like, the torment, and because we approach it at such a different piece, getting on the same page is such a consistent struggle, but it's a worthwhile struggle, right? If you live a life that feels off the page from each other, it's worth struggling to be on the page. My personality, her personality, like, if you were to do a personality test of us, let's just pick on the DISC profile. It's one you can take. I am a high D, secondary I.
No S or C. None. Zero.
And then under stress, if you watch those, I become even more direct. Okay. Right? Like,
So D is direct.
Direct. I is influencing, kind of, gregarious, happy personality. S is sensitive or sensing, and C is like this contemplative dynamic. Even though I think a lot, like in my personality mix, it's very low. Corrie is high S and C, very low D and I.
Yeah.
So we are complete opposites on those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Compliments, yes, but opposites. And so we come at the world very differently. Yeah. We come at each other very differently. And I think just that fight to always be on the same page. And then sometimes, close yours. Sometimes I don't want to be on the same page as her.
Oh.
Right? Sometimes I just want her to be on my page. And sometimes she just wants me to be on her page. And we think that's the same page. But it's not. Like, finding that page and scripting it together is what the struggle is. And can we get there? That's what we're always trying to do.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a big problem. That doesn't sound
But that brings in...
Yes, it makes everything that you're
But
dealing
it's
with.
how you solve every other
Yes.
problem,
It's
right?
parenting. It's
Yeah.
money. It's sexual intimacy. It's what's for dinner tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how many of you fought last night about where to go for dinner? You're just like, I don't know, you pick. I don't want to pick, you pick. And why are we fighting over what we're about to put in our mouths?
Yes.
But that dynamic of get on the same page, that's the biggest thing for us, is like.
But even though we come to the world differently, I think it's the thing that helps us relate so well to one another. Like, if I was married to someone that was like me, what a bore that would be. Seriously. Like, no, Jeremy, like, I am up for a good time. I love having fun. It's like a core value in our family is fun. We love to have fun. But, like, I'll join you in it, but I'm usually not the one, like, coming up with the ideas or whatever. I'm kind of like, just kind of moving along. I'm here for it. But, yeah. So
I'll plan the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
Make sure those things the reservations are made. Yes. Well, as we kind of wrap this particular part up, I have, over the last probably year or two, few years, as I've told people how long my husband and I have been married, I continually get this question, 27 years, well, what is the secret? So, what do you think is the secret to longevity and commitment in marriage?
Go ahead.
I think it's when it just was beautiful going to Jamarcus and Polly's wedding this weekend and just standing that commitment when you're standing there in front of God and your church and your family and the people that love you the most, and you make vows to one another. They're not just silly words that are spoken that day. It is truly the commitment you make before God, and through his, generosity and love for us, he makes it available to us. And so that's it, right?
Yeah,
you can add more.
No, I mean, that's it for us. We go back, again, to Christ's commitment to us, but like we've taken those vows serious every single day, even when the days are hard, like we made this commitment to each other, and I'm here for you and you're here for me, and we can do this.
Yep. And it's worth it.
It's worth it.
We had these t-shirts that say marriage is hard, and then it's crossed out and it says worth it. We were going to wear them today, and you said it, marriage is hard, and I'm like, we should have worn the shirts. Oh well.
Great. Well, can you thank Jeremy and Corrie together with me for offering their intimate details of their home?